Reed. Say his name. Jermaine Reed. Say his name. Jermaine Reed. Say his name. Jermaine Reed. Won't you say his name? Philip White. Say his name. Philip White. Say his name. Philip White. Say his name. Philip White. Won't you say his name? Say his name. 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 Eric Garner, 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 won't you say his name? Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, say his name. Trayvon Martin, won't you say his name? Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, say his name. Sean Bell, won't you say his name? Say his name. 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 Won't you say his name?
Freddie Gray, say his name. Freddie Gray, say his name. Freddie Gray.
All right. Listen. Let me apologize. I had some technical difficulties at the end of the program, and apparently after that last telephone call, the sound went out, and you guys did not get to hear me break down the dynamics, the origins of Black Power to make the contrast between Black Power and White Power. So let me do that and then get off the air. I've got some other things I got to handle, but I owe you this much, because that doesn't make the program complete. So for those who are just tuning in here, go back to my previous video where I talked about the racist origins of White Power, and the question that's been raised about how is it racist to say white power, but not to say Black power. And so it cut off before I could get to the Black power and tell you why it's not racist to say Black power and what it's really all about. So let me play the video for the benefit of those who didn't see the last one, of the video that 46 minus 1 retweeted with one of his supporters yelling white power 3 times, and the White House issuing statements saying, oh, he didn't hear that, which was a lie, because you're going to hear it clearly at the first part of the video. And then I'll come back and give you a brief synopsis of what white power stands for, and what Black power stands for, and why there's a distinct difference between the two. It's not both sides. It's no equivalency or anything like that. It's completely different. But let's check this video out. Now, it's a 2-minute video. As you can see, the white power stuff happens right in the beginning. How in the world the White House can send out something saying the president didn't hear that? How do you not hear that? How do you play that video and it's right there in your face at the beginning of the video and you didn't hear it? So once again, white power is a phrase coined in response to Black power. Every time Black folks create or coin something that is designed to empower Black people in the midst of white supremacist America, there's white backlash, and white people respond by coming up with a counterclaim, a counter response. We say black power, they say white power, but their white power means something completely different than our black power means. We say Black Lives Matter, they say all lives matter, or Blue Lives Matter, which means something completely different than what our Black Lives Matter means. And so white power stands for racism, bigotry, the subjugation, the dehumanization, the brutalization of black people and other non-white people. That's what it stands for. It stands for the history of racism and bigotry and keeping whites in power to subjugate black people and non-white people. That's why it's racist to say white power. Now, black power was a term that was coined in 1954. It was coined by Richard Wright, an African-American author of novels, short stories, poems, and nonfiction. The term was made popular by Stokely Carmichael, currently known Kwame Ture, at a rally at the Meredith March Against Fear in Mississippi in 1966. At the time, he was the chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, otherwise known as SNCC. He later became a leader in the Black Panther Party. And he began chanting at that rally, "We want black power." First, let me know if y'all hear me on here. So I know I'm not saying this and y'all can't y'all can't hear me. If you can hear me, say, Bishop, we can hear you. We got you. Just let me know. So he started chanting, "We want black power." So the term black power is used to mean self-determination for black people, for people of African descent in America and anywhere where black people are being oppressed in the world. It stands for self-empowerment. It stands for grassroots activism. It stands for equal rights and political power, equality. It stands for the destruction of the white power structure. It stands for the destruction of the false ideology of white supremacy. It stands for black people who have been denied a voice, a vote, and an opportunity. This is what black power stands for, which is why it's not racist to say black power, but it is racist to say white power. Power is and always has been the ultimate goal for black people, for the descendants of African slaves in America. Power. How do we define power is what's important. We have to determine whether we've achieved the political, the social, the economic, the self-sufficient power to determine how we can live, move, act, and control our own destiny and our own lives. Power helps us become truly self-determining, the way we choose and how we interact with society on our terms. Okay. Black people, we're not a monolith. We can't ignore the progress that we've made since slavery. And though we're no longer enslaved, though we can now own property, live where we choose, marry who we choose, work and make a living, sit anywhere on the bus we choose to, have certain rights, we still know that there remains glaring, debilitating, systemic racial disparities and inequities in wealth, in housing, in employment, in education, in health, in criminal justice, in access to opportunities, in benefits, in rights and privileges, in punishments between blacks and whites. That's a fact in 2020 America. Just the fact that right now, the most visible and visceral symbol of white supremacy being the president of the United States is a problem in America. And those important factors prove that while we have come so far, we still need to demand black power. The pernicious disparities are a measure of the power of the false ideology of white supremacy and what it has on the world. Okay. And so black power means we want the ability to act, to move, to decide, to have options, to preserve ourselves, to develop, to regenerate, the ability to obtain and achieve within the context of our environment those things that maximize our survival and the continuation of ourselves. We want the ability to influence the environment consistent with our own self-interest. And the thing that we understand is that power is never given. It is always taken. Okay? People in power do not teach powerless people how to get power. That's what they mean by white power. We're not sharing this power with anyone else. We want the power to subjugate you, to dehumanize you, to brutalize you, and to oppress you. And so black power is a term that means base leadership, acting consciously, cooperating to build knowledge, to build possibilities through joint ownership, through long-term wins, through deep empowerment to sustain us and get us results according to our vision, according to our game plan. It's now 2020 and the fight for black power continues. Black Lives Matter is a demand for black power. And until we can achieve our goal of deconstructing the white power structure, which continues to oppress and deny us of equal opportunity and access and benefits and rights, we've got to continue to hold our fists up high in the air and demand black power. That's the difference between black power and white power. Yes, white power is racist. Black power is empowering. And yes, the man in the White House tweeting out one of his supporters yelling white power is indicative of the problem with racism that we have in America. So I just wanted to come back on and give you that little nugget because it obviously couldn't be heard on the ending of the last video. Listen, I got to tell you about Wednesday. You got to be with me on Wednesday. You got to, look, you got to be with me on Wednesday. The Bishop's Barbecue. So let me tell you a couple of things about what's happening with this. This started out as just a vision of mine to have some conversations about race in this climate of racial polarization, in this moment of so many people coming together all over America and the world, giving voice to Black empowerment and to the condemnation of white supremacy. So I wanted to bring together some of the most brilliant minds in America, some well-renowned folks who could speak to the particular issues of the day in something I called the Bishop's Barbecue. And the saying is, there's no raisins in the potato salad, just truth served hot off the grill. And we know in Black culture, having a barbecue or a cookout is an intimate gathering of friends and family, associates who come together to have a good time. And often during those times, there's some intimate conversations that families engage in. And so this is about having an intimate conversation about race in America with some people that are going to make you think, who are going to empower you, who are going to inspire you. And so last Wednesday, I had the Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes, pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas, and the Bishop Rudolph McKissick of Bethel Church in Jacksonville. And what an invigorating and inspiring conversation we had with so many hundreds of you who watched us on the live stream. You need to go to my YouTube page or to my Facebook page and watch that video in its entirety, man. I'm telling you, it was fire, absolute fire. This Wednesday, I've got 4 panelists that are going to be with me. I've got Tim Wise. Tim Wise is an author. He's an anti-racism activist and essayist. I've had Tim at my local church many times during my annual lecture series. You need to be there to hear Tim. I'm telling you, if you don't know him, look him up now, okay? I've got Alyssa Milano, the actress. My daughters tease me because I was an avid watcher of the series Charmed, which she played Phoebe. She actually produced that. And other accolades go to her in terms of her acting and producing career. And she's also been a frontlines activist for many different causes as well. And so you hear her voice out in the public sphere even now about this election and politics, etc. And she's going to be with me as well. The Reverend Nelson Rivers used to be very active and running the Office of Religious Engagement for the NAACP. He's now the Vice President of Community Engagement for the National Action Network under the leadership of Reverend Al Sharpton. He's going to be with me. And my friend and brother from Oakland, California, Pastor Michael McBride, pastor of the Way Church, but also the director of Live Free. He's been involved in so many groundbreaking activist endeavors over the years. Most recently, you've seen him with Kamal Bell pushing masks for the people, among other things. He just testified before the U.S. Congress about defunding the police as a survivor of police brutality. And so Pastor McBride, Pastor Rivers, Alyssa Milano, and Tim Wise will be my 4 guests this coming Wednesday. We'll be streaming live promptly at 9 p.m. You do not want to miss this edition of the Bishop's Barbecue. And then next Wednesday on the 8th, I've got Karen Hunter of the Karen Hunter Show on Sirius XM Urban View. I've got Dr. Keisha Blaine, syndicated columnist with the Washington Post and many other outlets, academician and scholar, and just a bad all-around sister. You don't want to miss it. And I've got another special guest I'm confirming this week for the 8th. You don't want to miss any of the next 2 weeks. Now, here's what's going to happen beyond those 2 weeks. What we've decided to do is, one, to create a separate podcast. I've got a podcast for my Monday morning radio broadcast already. I've got a podcast for my sermons that I preach both here at home at my local church and across the nation. So those are 2 podcasts that are already available, been available for a while. Creating this 3rd podcast entitled The Bishop's Barbecue, which will encompass all of these conversations that I'm having with this renowned people, which will continue on a monthly basis. So every month on a Wednesday night, I will bring on some well-known figure from across the nation in a conversation about race in America and other issues that are going on in America. And that will be the information that will be used for the Bishop's Barbecue podcast. The first podcast is already up. It's got the conversation I had with Dr. Haynes and Bishop McKissick. You can go anywhere where you stream podcasts and check that out right now. So listen, friends, you do not, I repeat, you do not want to miss this edition of the Bishop's Barbecue, which is happening on this coming Wednesday. Again, Mike McBride, Alyssa Milano, Nelson Rivers, and Tim Wise will be with me. Put a pin in it Put it in your calendar. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. So listen, I have got to move out of the way. It's always a pleasure. I love when I get together with my Monday morning audience. You guys give me life for the rest of the week. You know, I go back and I listen, I watch your comments and stuff. And you guys inspire me, definitely. So listen, I got to get out the way. I got some other business I got to tend to. And until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I.